Hey everyone, Christopher Ruocchio here of Sun Eater, back somewhat spontaneously with the monthly Q&A video because I realized with about half a day left to go that I had not done one for June. It's been a bit of a crazy month around here. Book 7 is done, but then everybody was sick, and so I was not able to really have an evening to do this. Also, I've been playing, this is the real obvious excuse, but I have been playing Elden Ring Night Rain in the evenings, and I didn't want to stream. So here we are. Yeah. So hey everybody, Leonardo, Jared, Grindset, Connor. Hello everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, a bit of a we'll do it earlier in the day and a bit of a last minute thing. Hope everyone will forgive me for the ambush. But it's good to see you all. Well deserved vacation. No, that's not how this job works. You either work all the time or you don't write a book for years. Those are the choice. Favorite Night Ring main Iron Eye. I'm one of those. I like Duchess a lot. I played Raider a fair bit too. So I've covered the board a little bit. I haven't tried Recluse or Revenant yet. A little unsure about those, but we'll see. But mostly I've been playing Iron Eye. Congrats on finishing book 7. Just started book 1, loving it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for thank you for jumping in. I got a really cool stat actually. It's halfway mark of the year today, and a third of all the books I've ever sold have been this year to date. So thank you everybody for that. Oh hey Cyprian, rereading it a third of the way through, Howling Dark and loving it. I am glad it's holding up on the reread. That is awesome. So yeah, no, so things are good. Book 7 is with copy editor right now. That's the person whose job it is to like go through and check my grammar and my spelling mostly. And little continuity errors and glitches and things like that. But like all the really qualitative editing is done. Certainly the like large scale edits are done. Grant says this, Casey already reviewed book 7 and made everyone hyped. Casey sent me his review. Obviously I sent Casey the sort of current final manuscript, which again isn't copy edited yet. And he really liked it, which is great. So he and I went back and forth a little bit, but I wanted him to read it because Casey has such a encyclopedic sort of memory for the series, and he was able to help me catch a couple things that were glitchy and things that didn't make sense, and try to make sure things are as on the level as possible before it even goes to we went to my editor, which was Dave, right? Dave edited book 7. But there is something to be said, right, for a real dedicated fan reader, right? Y'all care about the books in a way and to a degree that even professionals don't. So it was really nice to get Casey's input on that. I'm really glad that he liked it. Everybody who's read it so far really likes book 7, which is encouraging because the longer I work on a project, the less sure I am about it, and until other people tell me what they think. I've been working on this stupid Adam Man short story for the last 3 weeks because everyone has been sick, and that's been slowing me down. And I have never spent so long on a short story ever, and it's making me want to eat my fingers. It's almost done, probably tomorrow. And then I'll have to edit it and everything. And it's just been like way too long. The longer I go, the more time there is to second guess. And the real secret to completing any work of art is momentum and confidence, right? And so the longer a project goes on, the more that momentum dies, the faster the confidence dies. And that is like nothing to do with the quality of the work ever, right? It's just like really hard to keep working on something if you can't see it anymore. And the longer you stay in the forest, right, the more all you can see is trees. And it's been reassuring is the point to get all these early reactions on book 7. Still less time in that chapter. Yeah, if I wrote a whole short story in 3 months, I would just be a complete wreck. So I had a really bad run on Night Rain yesterday, and I just I was playing with my brother, and I was like, look, this is not working. This has been a bad day. Bye. And then I abandoned him. So hopefully maybe not good sportsmanship, but just things sort of stack up. But he handled it. They got to the Night Lord without me. So try to figure out how to time a reread so I can finish Disquiet Gods right before Shadows. Yeah. that depends on how fast you read. Sorry if you answered this, but do I plan on doing a recap video before book 7? Yeah, I plan on it. Whether or not it happens in time is another thing, but yes. I've done ones for books 1 through 5, so book 6 needs one. But I have to like write it, and things have been time has been at a premium lately, which is why I'm doing my customary monthly live stream with no warning in the middle of the day. Everybody is asleep, and I realized it was the last day of the month, and I had the thumbnail already. It seemed a shame to waste it. So, yeah. Somebody asked a question I missed earlier. If I miss a question, feel free to repost it. It's easier than scrolling back and forth. I'm dumb. Is there any way you can explain who's on the cover of the Andorita special editions? I don't remember who's on each of them off the top of my head. First one, obviously the main one is Crispin. Hadrian is there. There's the Cielson on the cover. I should just look. I'll pull them up. Give me 1 second. I won't do the whole screen share thing. I'll just tell you real quick. I'll do left to right. Where are they? There they are. Okay, left to right on Lesser Devil and Other Stories. It's supposed to be Callus from Parliament of Owls, then Hadrian, then Crispin, then Lyra Orinatali, and Imperial Soldier. The next one, left to right, is A. Cielson. That's Valka. It's Hadrian, Skidar Malian, and that's supposed to be Callan Herentites. And then the third one is Corvo and Simon from Garbele, and Lorien and Cassandra, and that's supposed to be the astronaut from, the Archanaut from the Archanaut. Yeah, so that's those ones. Yeah. And you're not dumb. That's not it. A couple of the characters look pretty different from how I imagine them, which is like always a little bit fine with me, unless it's a main character. So like their short story characters, I was a lot more like, yeah, okay, Kieran. I try to give the artist space to be creative because like they're an artist too, right? Yeah. Let's see. Can't wait. Started to read the series in 2020, 21 when Mike first covered it. I think it's 21. Mike first covered it. He thinks it's 2020. I really should just go check the video, because it's like actually an important statistic. But we actually just saw Mike when I was down in Houston, and we this came up, and we couldn't remember for sure. But neither of us checked our phones. So, what are some difficulties you found writing in the real primary world rather than a bottom-up constructed secondary world? Oh, that's an interesting question. So I've really run into this problem. Okay, so I've really run into this problem more with what? Hang on, I've run into this problem more with the Adamant stuff, right? Because it is not it's not our world, right? And so the real trouble is that names mean things, and a lot of people don't notice or think they notice or care that names mean things. But if you stop and really think about it, it introduces a lot of problems. The example I've been using is if you had a character, if I had a character named Hercules in a fantasy setting, right? This is a problem for two reasons. One, you have an impression of who Hercules is already because that name is so valent, right? It's so meaningful. So if I had a character named Hercules who's like a nerd, it'd be like, this feels weird, right? It doesn't make sense. And the other problem is that the name means, something to do with Hera. I can't remember the name, right? And so it supposes the existence of this goddess who doesn't exist in your fantasy world. And so like you can't use that name, right? And this is true of like all sorts of names, like mine, for example, right? If you have a fantasy world that doesn't have a Christianity in it, you can't have a Christopher, right? But you also like, if there's no Greek, like why would you use it, right? Like I have a Greek name. And so if you're building a fantasy world, this is a huge problem. And I think the only real solution is that if you want to be serious about it, then like if you're building a fantasy world, you probably actually need to make a language. Really, if you want to avoid this problem. And then you have to be careful with word choice as well, because this goes beyond names, right? And it comes into the choice of words that you're using. And you can decide how particular you want to be about it, right? Tolkien, for example, really minimizes the number of Latin root words in his text, right? He sort of cleaves towards the Anglish, right? And you don't have to go that far. But like words mean things. Like you shouldn't have a girl pope, right? Because pope means father, right? Unless you're going to grapple with it in some way, right, and explain it. Otherwise, it's distracting for me at least. There are other solutions. Hang on, I accidentally undid this cord. But the one that I like is the sort of off spellings of names in Song of Ice and Fire. I think that sort of keeps the names pronounceable, because the other problem is you don't want your names to be so esoteric in terms of spelling and pronunciation that people don't know how to say it, because then most people don't want to read that book because they like don't even know how to say anybody's names, and that can really be a stumbling block for people. And so you have to sort of strike this balance of readability and sort of meaning, right? And that's tricky, because the other thing you fall into is that if the names are all sort of so foreign, right, then people just can't keep characters straight anymore. And I think that Martin does a really good job of sort of balancing that out, at least with the Westerosi characters. A lot of his like the Carthene characters and the like Slaver's Bay guys, like I have no idea like which one is which, right? Those names are all super hard to keep straight. And I don't know if that could partly be on purpose, but it's a question of sort of cultural fluency and familiarity, right? Yeah. But that's like the big one so far in starting to work on the next thing, which I kind of like need to start. So on book 4 right now, and might be my favorite. As a reader from Macedonia, my only option is Amazon with standard editions. Any chance we can experience the art from the special editions? Some of the art should get posted. One of the things I need to do is go back through and look at all the art that has been released officially and at least put it on my Instagram. Update the website. There's a lot of things. Yeah. So. I need to catch up on reposting a lot of art. Also, hello Macedonia. You're my first Macedonian reader that I've spoken to, I believe. So that's cool. Awesome. The discussion of the problem of evil and disquiet gods felt a bit hand wavy. Do I think the emotional weight of Hadrian's questions could be enhanced by him focusing on events that he went through? I'm sorry that you felt it was so. I don't. I don't have a good answer for you. I'd probably yes, right? But I'd have to. This is the sort of thing that's probably better if I like let the experiment run its course. Maybe read book 7 and see how you feel. What would the feminine alternative for Pope be in that case? Well, where does the word Pope come from? Let's see. We can make one, because there isn't one, is the short answer, right? Because the equivalent position has never existed, right? Let's see. It's a fun exercise. So let's look at the etymology of the word Pope, right? The Bishop of Rome as head of the Roman Catholic Church, circa 1200, from Old Latin Papa. From Church Latin Papa, Bishop, Pope in Classical Latin, tutor, from Greek Papas, Patriarch, Bishop, originally father, right? Same root as Papa, right? So we'd have to do something with Mama instead, right? Let's see. Let's go look at like Mama, right? Which would be we're looking at like Pater Mater, right? So like if we wanted to sort of chunk it down to one syllable, you could do we wouldn't want to do mate, right? Because that has other implications. You do something like maim, right? MAME, right? But that has sort of a synonym, homophone issue with the word like to injure, right? Which might not be a problem, right? There might be opportunities there. But there like isn't a there isn't like a real world term that carries exactly the same issue, and then you run into problems, right? Because you've just created this new idiosyncratic word, and are people gonna like respond to it, right? And like that's a question, right? So like I kind of like MAME, but the reality is that there just isn't a sort of real world equivalent title, right? At least from the same linguistic background and whatnot, right? So but like the word Pope literally means father, so it rubs me the wrong way when I see it misused. Would I say Hadrian is utilitarian? Not really. No. I would not. New Sun solution, with the book being a translation, is also a great solution. Yeah, but like it's unclear how much that really applies to the names in the text, right? Like, are the names also being translated, or is the culture right? And this is maybe where the translation gimmick starts to break down, right? If all the names are in a sense being localized too, right? Then there's this whole extra potential layer of things that we just don't have access to. And maybe Severian's name is not Severian, but is a name that means the same thing as Severian, right? In which case, like, what language are they speaking? Which we know is some sort of Spanish, right? And so it's not too much. The Latin is also not too much of a stretch anyway, right? So, um, you know, yeah. If I were to resurrect one of my bad guys, Palpatine style, which character would I pick, and whose grandparent would they be? Inexplicably be. I would not. I would not do that. I would just not. I would just not do that. That was possibly the worst decision in the sequel trilogy, maybe. Besides all the other ones. As much as I love Ian McDiarmid, yeah. What was the reason I gave Hadrian purple eyes? I gave Hadrian purple eyes because Titus Groan has purple eyes in Gorman Guest, and it was a nod to that. So do you have to invent new names for the days of the week if the story doesn't include a Woden, a Thor, or a Frigg? Yeah, probably, right? Like, this is sort of one of the criticisms Tolkien gets, right? And of course, the Tolkien's defense is that you're reading a translation, so it's actually fine, right? Which works. You can do that. But like, so you have to strike this balance, right? Because it's not useful to your readers to also then go and invent new units of measure for everything, right? And if you start saying, everything is what are the Daleks measure time in rels, right? If you have to wait 30 rels, right? Like, how long is a rel? I think it's about a second if memory serves, right? But like, that you can see how if someone has to then travel 30 sprongs or something, right? Like, people don't know what that is, and it's like way too much work to ask people to really go all the way in. But but you can be too lazy, is all I'm saying, right? Like, maybe you can get away with the girl pope, right? If you do some work in some other places. That sort of thing specifically grinds my gears, right? And you may be fine with. But you have to make a series of choices, right? In order to try and get the mix right. And I do think that a lot of writers are not serious enough about language choice. Oh, got a super chat. Shout out to my boy Yossi from Leonardo. Shout out to Yossi. This has come up. This has come up so much. Like, is there a story here? Who is Yossi? I would love to know. Not that I mind. Thank you for the super chat. I just feel like there's something I'm missing. Let me catch up with the chat. What specifically makes Hadrian Byronic, in appearance or in character? In appearance, there is a sort of phenotype, right? The sort of tall, dark, pale, thing, right? But it's also the melancholy and the melodrama and all of that stuff. Is the name Marlowe a reference to anything? Christopher Marlowe, the author of one of the Faust stories. I love your books with my friend. We're on book 5. We're wondering about the Celtic language. It looks like it has consistent grammar and conjunctions. We'd love to know more about it. It does. There are some probable glitches in it, but but it is functional is the right word. I have a notebook full of Celtic language notes that I really ought to clean up and systematize to show everybody. But yeah, it's an inflected language, like Latin. But it uses heavy particle. It has heavy particle usage like Japanese. Those being the two languages, not English, that I'm most familiar with. And it's got this sort of weird way of communicating gender through voice, passive and active, by means of the subject and object of the sentences, which was a sort of novel invention for me. and which is very hard to sort of keep straight in my head. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what else I could say about it specifically, but I have worked on it for years now. It's not something, I don't think it's to the degree, I don't think it's complete to a degree where someone could really learn it. But it is, it's in reasonably good shape. Lino, good to see you, man. Just dropping by to congratulate you on Shed Spawn Time. Thanks, man. I can't wait for November. Me neither. Me neither. It'll be really, really done next month when I finish the copy edit. But so I'm sort of holding for that. I think they said the 9th or the 10th I should have it. Cameron, I cannot answer that spoiler question for Dregs. That's up to you. Sorry about that. Now that Sun Eater is finished, will I read Red Rising? Maybe. I have no plans, but maybe. The Mope. The Mope. That is an option. I thought about it, but I thought that would be. I thought it was too silly an answer, despite suggesting mate and name. So, the Mope is an option. Do I have any plans for more Sun Eater novellas? I would like to, but I need to. I need to jump into the next thing for DAW actually for time reasons. So I will not be writing another Sun Eater novella next, which is what I wanted to do, but time is not going to permit it. I wanted to write a couple novellas and then move on, but needs must. So, will we be seeing more of Cassandra's character development in book 7? Yes. I'm sorry you felt like she was underdeveloped in book 6. I don't know that I agree, but I think she has a lot to do in book 7 for sure. Have I played Elden Ring Night Rain? I have been, yes, very, very much so. That's why this stream is so late in the month. Are there any of the short stories and novellas you consider essential to read while going through the series? No, not. It depends on what you mean by essential, right? You can read the 7 books and be fine. I think everything that happens in a short story is explained in the novels sufficiently, right? But it's a question of what you think sufficiently means, right? And so if you want more clarity on these things, you can read them. I think Queen of Ashes in it. No, I think probably of the novellas, Dregs is the most necessary. Usually my recommended reading order, I put it between books 5 and 6. But in thinking about it, it does ruin, I think, a surprise in 6. And so, your mileage may vary in terms of what you want to do. I increasingly feel like reading order is beyond reading the 7 books in order is not super important. And you can kind of, take your own risks and make your own choices. But because of things like this issue with Dregs, do you read it after 5 or after 6? I kind of think that after 6 makes more sense. It's sort of like you shouldn't watch actually the Star Wars prequels before you watch the original trilogy. Star Wars is a case of publication order always, right? And I think yeah, but if there's one short story, I don't know, maybe Demons of Array, which is in Tales 1, is maybe the most essential short story. Maybe someone will disagree, but you could just read the books and be fine. I always want to err on the side of saying you don't have to read anything really. Like you don't have to read the books, right? There, you can read something else. You should read something because you want to. And I don't want anyone to feel like they have to go catch up on all these things and chase all these things down. That's just for people who really want to do it. So if you are like, man, I don't like short stories, totally cool. But yeah. Hi, Rocky. I'm a 14-year-old aspiring author, and I'd like to know if you'd say there would be any relation between time on a film and pages on a book. Make sure I understand the question. You mean is there I'm actually not sure I understand the question, Fifth Robin. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to figure it out. Do you mean with regard to pacing? Is there a do you think that in terms of what's happening on the page, there's an amount of time, if it were a movie that each page should cover, basically? If that's what you mean, then my answer is no, right? I think I had this conversation with a grad student at Houston Christian University. I think his name was Matthew last year, and he was talking about how like books have gotten a lot longer and how a lot of that seems to be the like really zooming in on action scenes and playing action scenes out beat for beat. Where if you go read Tolkien, if you read Robert E. Howard, you read older fantasy, you read older literature in general, action is a lot more brief, and now it's very cinematic, it's very drawn out. And his thesis basically was that that everyone sort of thinks in terms of cinema now, right? When you visualize a story, right, you visualize it in terms of how it would be blocked on screen. And I would suggest that, especially since you're so early in, your whole career, right? Which good luck, by the way. You know, you don't have to think in cinematic terms at all, right? The point of literature isn't to become cinema or to imitate cinema, right? We can do things that movies can't do, right? You can be a lot closer to characters' feelings, than cinema. You can internalize the drama, right, a lot more than cinema can. And we have a different toolkit, and that is a good thing, right? And so I almost think, right, that the best thing to do is maybe not think that way at all, right? And think about the story in terms of the story and not how it might seem on the screen. Now, if I'm misunderstanding your question there, I apologize, but that's sort of the thought process that I have here. Um, um, At the end of book 6, we see the guy translate the books and mention that there are some volumes missing. In the timeline, yeah. Is there a specific reason you didn't write the really important battle that is mentioned? Um, uh, because the things that are in the text are more important. Basically, right? Like it was very, very hard to uh it's very hard to write a 7 book series, even, right, in terms of getting publishing to cooperate, right, and put out the books that you want them to put out, and so on and so on. And so I have already stretched my publisher's good graces. And so if I were to write an account of Hadrian's life that covered every day from age the 19, I think, when the book starts, series starts, to however old he is at the end. I can't remember the exact number. Uh, then the books there'd be like 30 of them, and that may sound great to you guys, but to my publisher, that sounds like a really bad idea. And so I decided I was going to put cracks between all of the books, and like that's a good thing. So at least I think that's a good thing. So because we can always go back and tell more stories. Let's see. Oh my gosh. S Connor for $50. Good lord, thank you. A bit late to the series. Found it at the start of this year and have completely devoured it. Already my second read in prep for Shadows. Truly an honor to read your books. Excited for the future. You deserve all the success. Take my money. Go. Gosh. Thank you. That is very kind of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for reading. And thanks for the super chat. Are there any plans to get the books into Dutch? I would love to get the books into Dutch. But the only conversation I've had about this ended with my agent saying the Dutch market is very, very hard for people who are not already like ultra bestsellers in the US, because the English literacy in the Netherlands is so high that the UK publisher tends to catch most of the mid-list writers. So we don't have any concrete plans, but I would love for it to happen. But nothing just yet. What was the reason for retconning Crispin's family in book 6? That is something I would prefer to skip, if that is okay. Best the culture book, Use of Weapons. I love Use of Weapons. It's great. Number 2. I like Consider Phlebas a lot. I like Accession a lot. I really like Inversions, so it's hard for me. I'll call those a 3-way tie for number 2 for me. Hadrian's eyes are legit purple. Does pizza exist? People have put stuff on bread for a long time. I see no reason to think it would disappear. It would be weird if I mentioned it, though. I think it would throw. I think it would throw people. Do I think I'll ever write historical fiction? Never say never, but given how snooty I am, about historical correctness and research, and the fact that research is not really my strong skill. I expect that I will probably stick to secondary worlds or the far future. Um, but why have we seen a resurgence in sci-fi fantasy books set in a vaguely Roman Empire-based setting? Seems like it's a thing. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it being a thing when I did it. I just like that stuff. As far as why there's maybe more of it, I do think that there has been a bit of a resurgence of interest in classical history. I think partly driven by the tendency of journalists and news pundits to compare America to the Roman Empire. But I don't know if that explanation is really the right one. Certainly had nothing to do with my thinking about it. I think about Rome all the time because I'm a classicist. So I have not read The Devils. Are there some spoilers here? I'm just reading the first book. Almost never. And if there are, I have a little spoiler chyron. I pop up on the screen. It looks like this, and I put it up there while I'm answering a spoiler question. So you can, and I'll do a warning. So if I answer a spoiler question, I will put that on the screen and warn you, and then I'll take it away so you know to unmute things so you could stay. How do I keep my notes organized for writing? Well, the language notes that I talked about are not. They are a mess. But I have just a folder system on my computer, and I divide it by topic. And most of what I need is in the outlines for the stories themselves, and is not in like separate note files. So I really write from the outline more than anything else. Just finished Disquiet Gods this morning. Thank you, sir. What is my opinion on horror, and do I ever plan on writing it even as a mix of genres? I think I already have to an extent. But horror in general, I like horror. But most horror, I think horror is maybe not uniquely prone to being terrible. But for whatever reason, especially in film, most horror movies are worthless. A lot of fantasy and science fiction films are bad, and this, I mean, like most of everything is bad, right? But I do find that finding a truly good horror film is very difficult for maybe a lot of reasons. I think the deepest reason is that most people don't really have anything to say, and I think that horror needs to say something in a way that I think horror needs to justify itself to a certain extent because you're dealing with extremes. I think that a lot of I remember there's a story, I can't remember who it was talking about how he used to do script writing in Hollywood, and producers would come to him and be like, "Hey, I have this idea for a story, right? I need you to write it." And like this idea, and he's like, and I remember this one guy was like, "The idea is a girl gets captured and tortured. That's the story, right?" And it's like, that's not a story, right? And I do find that a lot of horror films are not that deep, or maybe pointing at the ugliness just for the sake of showing you something scary and awful, instead of trying to talk about something meaningful through horror, right? Which does not mean the heroes need to win necessarily, right? The heroes could be punished for their wrongdoing or something, right? But great horror, I think, imparts a moral lesson, and to the extent that horror fails to do that, I think it misses the point. And so, yeah, but I like a good scare. It's funny. It's much easier for me to write something that's scary than it is for me to consume it in any form. I'm a lot more squeamish than Kingdoms of Death would lead you to believe. But I do like a good horror film from time to time. And as far as horror literature, I have not read something that's like pure horror. Usually, it shows up in fantasy or science fiction. Most of my fiction reading is in genre. Most of my reading these days is nonfiction. So, do I ever think I'll write a hard sci-fi book? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I don't have a plan to. Most of my science fiction stuff will fit in Sun Eater. I don't think that Sun Eater is that soft. I think there are certainly much softer science fiction series. I think I've struck a decent balance, but it's certainly not hard science fiction, of course, right? Rome is cool. Yes, that's the whole thing. Where can I pre-order a UK edition? So theoretically, the UK edition should not be visible on like US Amazon. Sometimes they do show up. They should be visible on like Amazon UK, but you can pre-order them from places like Waterstones and other UK bookstores. You might have to import them if you are in the US, and you'll pay for shipping commensurate with that. But yeah, if you're in the UK or the EU, it should be just the default book that you can order anywhere books are sold. Cheers for France. Thank you. I don't have anything articulate to say about The Witch right now. I haven't seen it in years, so I don't want to get away from it. So have I seen Sinners? I have not. I have not. I have not watched a movie. The only movie I've seen this year, I saw Fire Walk with Me. I watched that, which was amazing. Speaking of horror movies, I watched another movie. What was it? I watched like 20 minutes of Nosferatu and fell asleep because I have two small children and didn't make it, which is a shame because I do love Eggers. But I just didn't like The Witch that much. I love The Northman a lot. Yeah. Can I say what the next series is that I'll be doing? I cannot. It's a secret. Oh, hey Sam. Samwise says, "Thanks for pitching DJ Butler. Just read The Cunning Man and loved it." Yeah, Dave's a genius. I love Dave. Mike Flanagan's horror shows are amazing. I have seen like one episode of Midnight Mass. That's the extent of my Mike Flanagan exposure. Any idea when Shadow Upon Time arcs might be up on NetGalley? They should be. They're not going to not do it, but the answer will be after the copy edit. So I get the copy edit back July 9, 10. I imagine it'll take me a week to 2 weeks to get through all of that because the book is so long. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can and get it cleaned up. So I would imagine end of July, early August, possibly, would be my guess. Plenty of horror to be found in nonfiction. Yes, the real world turns out is actually far scarier than any of the stuff we make up. Yeah. So, will your Tani ever get their own Palatine class? I don't know. If I can answer that definitively, but it is possible. Have I read Hyperion? Yes, it is great. Favorite Night Rain character? I've played Iron Eye the most. I think I like Duchess better. I only just started playing as Duchess in the last week. Last couple days really. But I like Iron Eye a lot. Most of my runs have been as Iron Eye. So I'll clear you on ideas for the next project. Very clear. My problem right now mostly is names. I know like the whole plot. I know the whole plot. So it'll once I like. The problem is characters can't really become people to me until I have names for them, because I can't think about them at all, right? Because I can't. Okay, because I cannot visualize in my head, right? It's just black space and like vague shadowy objects, right? I don't know who a person is until I can encode them linguistically, and that means they need a name. So, yeah. Yeah. Given that I'm a classicist, who's my favorite of the Teodokwe? Yumi Zakardia. He's great. I like Ptolemy a lot too. I like Ptolemy a lot too. Been on a journey working on my sci-fi fantasy space opera novel. Discover your channel right when I started. Well, awesome, welcome. What was my inspiration for the Cielson? Initially, some nightmares that I had in terms of the look and everything. But it sort of elaborated a little bit. In terms of like human cultures, there's a lot of the Assyrians in them. There's a bit of the Aztecs, a bit of the Imperial Japanese. I hate to like say that because like I don't want people to think that I am judging those cultures, except maybe the Aztecs. But there's a little bit of that there for sure. Yeah, that's sort of the high points. I know you've said you played JRPGs. Any favorite Western ones? Witcher 3, more than the other two. But I think most of the games I've played have been originally Japanese. There's probably a couple others, but mostly not on Steam, so I can't really just check casually here, can I? Yeah, no, Witcher 3 is certainly my favorite Western RPG for sure. Um, but yeah. Uh, Man, I appreciate you saying this. Sorry to bring this up, but where did the Dune comparisons come from? Sun Eater is almost nothing like Dune in terms of themes and aesthetics. I agree with you, except that it is at the beginning more than anything, because I do start pretty close to Dune, both in terms of apparent theme and aesthetics, and in order to invert it. And a lot of people, I think, rage quit or don't get it, and I have not been helped by the fact that my publisher did the sort of usual lazy copy thing, right? And said it's like this meets this, and they said it's Dune and Name of the Wind. And I did want it to be like Dune at the beginning. My thought was that if I close to Dune, people who liked Dune would see that and they would be like, oh, like maybe this is for me. I didn't really bank on people having an allergy to that, which surprised me. That strain of criticism has always frustrated and disheartened me because people just didn't, I think, read closely enough, or maybe I didn't do a good enough job at the beginning striking that balance, right? And it was something that I worked hard on when I revised Empire of Silence for the Diamond Edition, which hopefully we'll be able to get the revised text out at some point. More broadly, was sort of working on that mix a little bit because it annoys me for exactly the reason you outlined, which is actually that in as genteel and collegiate a way, Sun Eater is like an anti-Dune, really, actually. I love Dune, but I disagree with a lot of its central themes and messaging. So I wanted to sort of strike back, I guess is maybe the right phrase. Um, do I rank my chapters chronologically or out of order? Chronologically, almost always. There've been a couple times where I've skipped a chapter because it was causing me great pain and I just needed to move on. Will Hadrian have his own giant statue in his honor or some planet? You're gonna have to read book 7. So, did I ever have a moral issue with the creation of the Cielson in the same way that Tolkien did about orcs being inherently evil? No, because I had the benefit of coming after Tolkien in time, I don't want to say more about it, but I intended to elaborate on that problem to a certain degree, and so we'll wait and see if it works. So. What does Yagami mean in Sealson? I can tell you what I think I can tell you what Yagami. I don't remember what the ni particle means specifically. All the particles are single syllables, so my brain is not good at remembering them. But I think it's a verb, so I can at least tell you what Yagam means because that's on my computer. Verb glossary. The verbs are the only group that I have sort of standardized in any way, although it is alphabetical by meaning and not by Sealson root. So I'm not gonna. I have like 200 verb roots here. I'm not gonna find it very quickly. Yeah, not the best thing to do on stream. Sorry. Yeah. What is my favorite non-Roman history book? I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know what my favorite Roman history book would be precisely, right? Like, because okay. So I can never remember the title of this because it is like a textbook, right? It's something like a collection of Near Eastern religious texts relating to the Old Testament. It's a compendium of like Egyptian and Akkadian and other Mesopotamian cultures and like the Hittite texts and things, right? So like religious texts from the Near East, right, in and around the time that the Old Testament was being compiled. The author's name is Pritchard, I think John Pritchard. I think it's like a huge textbook It is just really cool. So, yeah. Do I feel prescient for coming up with the Murakami right before the AI boom? Yes, I do. Uh, that is the thing I most pat myself on the back about, honestly. Um, how would my favorite books to write in Sunny? What were my favorite books to write in Sunny, and do I think are best align or not so? Uh, sorry, Fizz Robin. I don't understand the question there. My favorite book to write in the series was Howling Dark because it was the smoothest writing experience. I didn't have like a big upheaval in my personal life, right? I was getting married during Demon and White, for example, and that took a lot of attention, as it should, right? Etc. Um, and so it was the easiest book to write. It was also the book where I developed my method in terms of like outlining and sort of developing the story from top down. Whereas Empire of Silence was kind of a slow learning process. And then the books after that all had some sort of struggle or other, whether that was with my publisher or just in my personal life. Something else going on that was making work harder. And so yeah, Howling Dark's still at the end of the series was the most fun, smoothest experience that I had. That doesn't mean it's my it's the book that I think is best. I really really think book 7 is gonna knock your socks off. But I do have a soft spot in my heart for Howling Dark. How's work on the new Adaman story been going? Really enjoyed all three so far, especially the second one. The second one is second one is my favorite of those three for sure. This one has been really difficult because the last month has been hard. People have been sick a lot. I've been traveling, and like it's been very strange being done with book 7. I feel like someone has died. It's like I'm not thinking about Hadrian all the time anymore. I feel like in a certain sense, like I've had a sick relative that I've had to just like think about all the time, and he's gone, right? This is like a weird analogy, and so like my brain is a very strange place this month. Like I just don't know. Um, uh, it's been a very strange experience being done with the series. So, but I think I will finish the Adam story this week, which is good because I have some stuff I need to get done. So, um, how do I feel about readers taking inspiration from my own work in their from my books in their own works? Am I litigious? I have never sued anybody. If by how do I feel about people taking inspiration? You mean like the way that I did with Dune? That's fine. Like that's how it's supposed to be done. I think it's cool. It's flattering. You know, if somebody wants to do what I did and argue with me in narrative form, that's fun too. Don't expect me not to have feelings about that. I may at some point say something, but but you're certainly free to do it, right? On the other hand, if you mean like fan fiction, I kind of don't understand fan fiction. I don't get it. I don't know why. Like writing takes so much work. I don't understand why people would do it, for something that they can't possibly profit by. So I don't understand fan fiction. And I wish people would write their own things, even if it was close to my stuff. Uh, but no, I'm not litigious. Um, do do do. But yeah, yeah. Uh, Hadrian is better than Paul. Well, thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you, Christopher. Nice to see you, Russ. Patiently waiting the finale. Me too. Me too. Um, uh, to use a perhaps obtuse analogy, Sunny is to Dune as Elric is to Conan. That is like kind of true, except that of course Dune is to John Carter, right? What Elric is to Conan. So like I'm kind of like there's like a third step here. Um, uh, I'm up for the great conversation. Cool, cool, cool. Who's my favorite character I've written in Sunny Hadrian? It's like a um, bog standard answer, but like he's the guy. It's his story, right? I've spent the most time with him and in his head. I know him the best, and in a sense, he's the most complete. Um, person, right? Because like a fictional character is not really a person, right? It's always a symbol. They're always a symbol. They're not complete, right? They're representative. And the sketchier the character, right? Like it's always an illusion, right? But Hadrian is the most detailed illusion. I like Valka a lot, but I also really in terms of characters I enjoy writing. I enjoy writing Siriani a lot more than like Karn, for example, which is maybe not obvious, but I like Siriani a lot. I like Polino. I like Corvo. Corvo is the character I wish was in the story more. Of which there are not many characters I feel like I underserved. I feel like she did not get enough screen time, stage time. Josiah, thank you for the super chat. Can't help but feel as though there are similarities between Kings of Death and the Gospel, specifically the death and resurrection of Jesus. There certainly are. Yeah. There certainly are. Ancient Near Eastern Texts Relating to the Old Testament with Supplement, Princeton Studies on the Near East by James Pritchard. Yes, that is the one. I think it's, it is a textbook, so I think it's like $200, but I shelled out for it, and it was totally worth it if you are like at all interested in that stuff. It's all primary sources, right? Which like really, when you do history, like that's what you should do, right? Like you should like listen to a good survey course on the period, and then you should like look at primary sources, right, as much as you can. You should read Suetonius, right? You should read Livy, you should read Tacitus if you're interested in Roman history. And it's like way more important that you do that than you read, Gibbon or Mary Beard or something, right? Now, like the reason to read, historians is because you might not be able to do the archaeological work or collate stuff, right? And you certainly should do that, right? But like I am a big primary source guy. Like that's really the way to roll. I like to take I like to listen to a course on great courses, or download a great course on Audible or something, and then like look at primary sources and sort of tool around. That's sort of what I like to do. What is my prediction for how real authors will navigate the upcoming tidal wave of AI generated books and stories? So I think there are a few questions, right? There is a timeline in which, right, AI it becomes useful, right, as sort of an antagonist for traditional publishing, right? If traditional publishing wanted to make a statement that they are the human industry, right, and like this is probably what won't happen, right? But if they wanted to, they could say, look, like all of our books are 100% organic, right? What you're getting here, right, is a book that is written by the person says it's written by, right? We didn't use, we paid a human being to do the cover, we paid a human being to do the copy editing, right? And I'm open to machine assistance for grammar, because we already use spell check, right? It's like, like I don't know that really matters, right? But in terms of generative content, I think that really does. So I think there's an argument that traditional publishing could swerve that way. I see no signs of that happening. I don't see publishing houses vocalizing a 100% organic position, but it could happen. Where I really think it's going to cause immediate impact is in the indie space, as it becomes possible to write books, right, to have your books written for you by these machines instantaneously. I think the number of books we see published annually is going to continue to explode. And that when it explodes, as it explodes, it's going to be a lot harder for you as a person, right, to rise above, or to get your signal boosted above the noise of just how many titles are out there. In a certain sense, we're already there, right? Because the a million monkeys on their typewriters already exists in the form of self-publishing itself, right? And that's not to say that traditional publishing is better, right? But I do think that gatekeeping, if nothing else, helps the signal noise issue, right? The problem with gatekeeping, of course, is who's manning the gates, right? And are they good gatekeepers? Are they good sentinels and door wardens? The answer is almost always no, right? The problem with authority, right, as Tolkien says, is that it's the most improper role of another person to boss another around, actually, right? And whoever holds the levers of power almost always doesn't deserve to have them, which is troublesome. But at the same time, like the like anarchy free for all of like I can just put out whatever I want with no quality control, which is what indie publishing is, right? Not that there aren't great independently published books and great independent authors. Of course, there are, right? There are already so many books that if you're a kid starting out, right, you really have your work cut out against you. In a way where when it was a novel technology, it was possible to become big simply because you were early. So I think that ship, in a sense, is already sailed. I think it's just going to get worse. And so I think independent publishing is going to become even harder than it already is, and it is very hard. And I do think that the trad houses probably will buy into it, at least for things like grammar, right? They'll probably phase out human copy editors over time, especially as like the personnel changes over generationally. I think because traditional publishing is slower and more reactive and is less proactive, I think they will be less likely to adopt this stuff as quickly. I might be wrong, but I do think basically if you're trying to self-publish your own thing, your competition is about to magnify tremendously. Although I do wonder too. I sometimes wonder what the point is of being on the internet if almost everything on the internet is automatically generated by machines designed to waste your time, right? You open these YouTube Shorts or these Facebook Reels, and you realize it was like, an awkward clip made by a robot with, some crappy narration over the top, and like you literally are wasting your life watching those things. And I know that because I do waste my life watching those things, right? And if the whole internet becomes full of time wasting shrapnel, which it already is, right? But at a level that you cannot ever possibly keep up with, part of me is like maybe people just turn the damn thing off, right? But I don't think that'll happen. It would be good if you did though, right? But I personally, selfishly, feel like I don't need to worry about it that much because you all are here for my stuff because I make it, right? So in a certain sense, I feel like I've already jumped the hurdle, right? And as long as I continue, right, to write my own stuff and don't sort of delegate that responsibility to ghostwriters or to the machine, then y'all will still be here. Is at least my hope. And so we'll see if that holds out and holds true. But yeah. Yeah. Whoa. Okay, I missed a lot of things. I am definitely real. Nobody would fake this bad lighting, or this nose. So, somebody just opened a can of worms. I hated the new Dune movie, especially part 2. Can you talk about some of the biggest problems with Villeneuve's adaptation in part 2? I have done this at length, so I probably won't. I probably won't because people are making fun of me already. But I don't like Stilgar's characterization as much as I love Javier Bardem and the memes. I don't like Chani at all, and I don't like the way the Harkonnens are portrayed in the films at all. What are my favorite time wasters? I don't know what. The thing I waste the most time on lately is watching Night Rain playthroughs, but I don't know that I don't know that certainly not the kind of time wasters I'm talking about. I just lose I lose the most time on that probably. Any New York City food recommendations? I do not have any, I'm afraid. I have only been up there like 2 or 3 times, and there's just so much up there. I have no idea. Any fun plans for Independence Day? No. Probably go over to my wife's parents, but it's probably about it. Best translation of Iliad Odyssey. Fagles is great, obviously, but I really have a soft spot for the Pope translation. It's the best English poetry version, and because I cannot read Greek, right? I care less about exactness in translation because I have a hard time accessing, exactness anyway, and it's impossible to really capture Homer in English. The languages are just too different. So I like to read a good poetic version. So I like Alexander Pope's. But how well does one have to be acquainted with tropes to write well? Not at all. You don't need to. We do not need to. I think actually the more you know about sort of, especially frankly, this may sound mean, of the way that like the community thinks about storytelling, the more you're likely to write garbage actually, right? Because everybody has these sort of memes and templates for how stories ought to be told, and the best thing you could do actually, right? People think the problem is writing ideas that are similar to other stories that you've read, and actually the real problem is writing to these sort of templates and tropes and structures that the community has imagined. Um, right. And I say the community because it's not like there's an academic tradition for sort of um, studying science fiction. There's a little bit of one, but it's not very crystallized. And the greater danger is simply in sort of being a turbo fan and writing like a turbo fan instead of cultivating your own feelings. And this is something I think early on I needed to really get away from. Is ceasing to think this way. Um, I believe generative AI will force curation on the major storefronts. Do you think querying will be made much harder? Yes, I think the slush piles will basically be crazy. Will agents return to conventions? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I do think largely the solution to all of our digital problems is to go into the real world. But whether or not other people feel the same is the question, right? Like I completely understand why people would like want to do away with working from home, for instance, right? Like you do actually get better results, at least better. It seems like if people actually have to go into work, I feel like I work better when I leave the house, which is hard now with this job, right? But maybe there are studies that disagree with me, but my instinct is that going into the world is better. So who knows? I could be wrong. Um, Given the complexities of galactic travel, calculating food types, and so forth, um, would the Pope calling a ecumenical council even be feasible? I mean, there it could be done. Could be done. It might be a different Pope by the time people get there. Have I read any of the Star Wars books? And if I have thoughts on the Expeditionary Force, no, sorry, those are two questions. Have I read any of the Star Wars books? Yes, most of the older ones. I read. I've read the old Thrawn books. Obviously, I've read Rogue Squadron. I read Vector Prime, but I did not continue the Yuuzhan Vong thing. That just was not working for me as a kid. I read. I read a lot of James Luceno's stuff, like Labyrinth of Evil. I really, really love the novelization of Revenge of the Sith in particular. I think that is just a work of genius. Um, but yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm missing a few, but yeah, there's some really fun stuff in there for sure. Have I read Expeditionary Force? Is that like the Craig Allenson series? I have not. Um, uh, what is my favorite, least favorite subgenre in sci-fi and fantasy? Um, I don't know. I mean, favorite, right? I like space operas. Least favorite though, I don't know. I think a lot of cyberpunk is bad. I don't. But I like it. I want to like it. I just think a lot of it is not good. Um, so I don't know. It feels wrong picking on it too because some of it's really really great. Um, Do I plan to purchase the Fall of Hyperion from Curious King? I would love to have it. Yes, book one is amazing. Book one is amazing. So I would love to get book two. If they do Endymion though, I might pass because I don't love the Endymion books. Um, you're fabulous at Comic Palooza. Well, thank you, Kelly. You were fabulous at Comic Palooza. Very kind of you to say. How much of Sunny did I plan from Empire of Silence? It's hard to quantify, but like I knew the main plot for sure, right? Things. It's more that things elaborated than things changed. Um, what's more fun, writing a big action sequence or characters interacting with one another? Now, those can be the same thing, and when it is, that's usually the best, right? When you get a lot of stuff happening, but depending on the characters, characters interacting can either be really, really, really fun or torturous. I find like most of the Karn Saga conversations have been like impenetrably difficult. For example, Karn just really, really kicked my teeth in. Whereas like and like Valka could too, honestly. Balaka was hard. But some of the other characters, some of those, like, again, I love writing the Sirianni scenes. Those have been very fun for me. Yeah, yeah. Jake says, I'm reading Revenge of the Sith right now. It has no reason to be that well written. I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. If you're not listening to the audiobook, you should consider it. It's great. Jonathan Davis does it, and he does Book of the New Sun as well. It's just great. So you got published so young. Any advice for writers who might worry they're running out of time to get published? Because you're like older, you mean? I wouldn't worry so much. Eric Flint started his career in his mid 40s, I think. Writing is one of those things that you can do for the rest of your life. The only thing that's going to cause you to run out of time is death, or dementia, I suppose. And so I think even if you're, 50, 60, like, you won't be able to write as many books, right, as someone who started at like 20, right? But you can still write books, right? Don't despair, for starters, right? But like the advice is the same as anybody, because like life is really short, right? It's like you need to be intentional about it. You need to you need to sit down and work at it every day. It's like with anything you want to get done, right? It In a certain sense, like a hobby needs to be a little more than a hobby. It can't be something you do casually when you feel like it. You need to do it all the time, right? And you need to work at it, right? And until it's like a part of your personality, right? It's not like, I haven't really boxed in years, right? And so like describing myself as a boxer is disingenuous, because outside of once a couple of weeks ago, like I have not punched anybody, in a really long time. And That time a couple of weeks ago was also in a boxing context. Right. But like trying to get back, but like it wouldn't be right of me to like call that a hobby unless it was something I was doing regularly. And so if you want to write books, you should work on it as much as you can. And I personally think that should be every day. Just because I writing is hard. It's not harder than digging ditches, but it is hard to get into that headspace and to maintain the headspace and to like, cultivate the toolkit you need to like do the thing well. It's true of painting, it's true of dancing, it's true of, the guitar, right? You need to spend time on it. You need to love it, right? And if you don't love it, right? And you love something when you still love it even when it makes you angry, right? That's when you really love something. Because if you throw your hands up, right, and you divorce your hobby, then you didn't really love it enough, right? So, you know, yeah. Gonna be at one of the stores in Raleigh again. When am I? Probably November. I mean, definitely November, but I don't know about between now and then. Ever plan on doing a book signing in Los Angeles? I don't have any plans, but I certainly have no opposition to going to LA. Was St. Edward's Cross and Coronation Regalia saved from the devastation of Earth? The thought had never occurred to me. Probably the answer is probably yes, but it's certainly out of use at this point. Karn Origin spinoff when? Good question. Can I pre-order the audiobook? I think so. Top 5 favorite anime. Cowboy Bebop for sure. We're talking series or films? Because if it's films, Ghost in the Shell, the original, the 95 one, Akira, and I'd have to pick a Miyazaki film. Maybe Princess Mononoke. Maybe. I know those are like pretty standard answers, but like they're really that good for a reason. As far as series, right, Cowboy Bebop for sure. I In terms of like impact on me, I really really liked Dot Hack Sign when I was a kid, like middle school. That was like one of my more like I'm really getting an anime now series. It was like I'm not just watching Pokemon. I still like listen to the soundtrack when I'm writing a lot. Yuki Kajiura did the music for it. It's really good. I don't know. I really like Psychopaths, the first season in particular. Maybe that's a good one. Dub's really good. But I don't want to. If you ask me, later, I might change my mind. I'm going off social media for the month of July. Any big news I'm going to miss? That would be asking. But no, the big thing is that Tales of Sun Eater 4 is out on the 15th. And so, but that's ebook only. So I don't know if that would violate your terms of internet usage, but it's out on the 15th. Glad I'm the only one who did not love Endymion. I read the first two books and thought they were great. Endymion just didn't grab me. It is odd. And book four is, book four is even less great. So, do I plan to see Sabotage when they come to the US? Probably next year. Man, if they're doing it, yes, I will. I will do whatever I can, because probably like the last chance, right? Did someone challenge me to a boxing duel? Did I win? No, it was a lesson. It was a lesson. Yeah. So, what does I love about writing? It's a hard thing to articulate, right? I like making things. And it seems to me that like making worlds and people is like the coolest thing that you can make, right? And the easiest way to do that, I think, is with words, in terms of like, I didn't have to like learn how to use a camera or like any software really beyond Microsoft Word, right? You don't really have to do that either, right? Like the technical side of it in terms of hardware there was a very short learning curve. So I could like start writing pretty much the same day I wanted to start writing. Whereas like if I wanted to make cinema, it would have been like that would be a lot more work, right? To like learn how to use cameras and lighting and get actors together. Like it's a lot easier to actually do the craft of writing, to get to do the craft of writing than it is movies or video games or whatever. I didn't have to learn to draw, right? And so like that was good, right? Because then I could actually just start making things, and yeah, so like I like that, and I am a very auditory person, and so listening to the words as I'm writing them and sort of playing with them and make sure they sound good, right? Which like I think I have a pretty good ear for, right? Is very satisfying to me, and getting to play with history and all of these things and to make history, is very fun. Just it's good stuff. Is there sufficient technology in the Empire or verse overall to cross galaxy transportation? Now that is an interesting question. The answer is at warp, no. But you could get there through conventional propulsion. Yeah, sorry, I'm confused. Cowboy Bebop mentioned WTF is a bad episode. What's a bad episode? But you could get to another galaxy through conventional propulsion, because because of momentum, basically. So there's a fuel concern issue with warp, where you would run out of antimatter before you cross intergalactic volumes, but you could probably coast at 99.99999% C, assuming you don't hit an object, right? And make it to Andromeda or whatever. You have some other problems, like relativity, right, which does not come into effect with warp travel at all. So, any plans to have a special leather-bound edition? We have one. We have the diamond editions, which book one is sold out, unfortunately, but book two, we're working on. My artists are behind schedule, but we're working on them. Favorite manga, Berserk. Have I read Steven Erickson's books? I will get in trouble. I read about a third of Gardens of the Moon, and just it was not working for me. Nothing but respect for the fellow, but like I was just not clicking with it at all. Favorite 19th century writers? That'd be like Hugo and Dumas. Like I like the French writers. Particularly Dumas, really. But have I thought about reading and watching One Piece? No. I get in more trouble. I remember when One Piece was first getting localized on 4Kids because I was a Shaman King fan. Still am. And I was like, this is not for me, right? The trailer came in, I saw the character design, and I was like, I'm gonna pass on this. And that has been my feeling ever since, basically. I like I just don't like the art style. It just doesn't work for me. I just don't. The character design is not appealing to me at all. All due respect to the One Piece fandom, my brother is a giant fan and has been trying to get me to watch it for ages, but no. Also, Psychopaths mentioned WTF is a bad episode. What does that mean? I don't understand the syntax in the sentence. Is there still a new Lesser Devil cover coming? Yeah, soon is a strong word, but John is almost done with his Diamond Edition contribution, and so that will be maybe not the next thing. I think I'm gonna have him do the next batch of cards for Patreon, but then Lesser Devil, yeah, he has been tied up on the Diamond Edition for more than a year, so um, yeah. Cowboy Bebop is the goat. That is correct. Cowboy Bebop is to me like it's like artistically like the medium at its best, but it's also narratively the medium at its best. And then it's got Yoko Kanno doing the score, so it's musically the best, right? She's probably in the running for like best composer alive, right? She's so versatile. She did the soundtrack for Escaflowne too, right? And it's like they couldn't be more different, right? Like she's good at Gregorian chant and jazz, like only one person, right? Like it's just absolutely genius, right? And even the dub is great, right? Like when is the dub great, right? Answer more frequently than sub supremacists would have you believe, but like getting a dub that's that good, right, in the '90s is pretty unlikely, and so no masterpiece, masterpiece. Um, Thrillers typically have more substance. Hannibal's show is great. Hannibal's show is great. Seven is also great. It's funny. My wife never heard of Seven. I was trying to. She brought it up last night. I was like, oh, it's David Fincher came up, and I was like, you did Seven, and she's like, what is that? How do you not know what Seven is? Where have you been? I have not seen Attack on Titan. No. It came out at a time when I like couldn't watch something that was that long, and I still have not circled back. So, how do I find the pacing of a book? I think that pacing is up to the reader. Actually, I don't think pacing exists from a craft perspective at all. I think pacing is a metric of the reader's individual enjoyment of the text in question. Because not only will I see readers say, "This book was slow," right, and this book was fast about the same book, but they will say this section was fast and this section was slow about the same section in the book. I think it is purely in your heads. I do not think pacing exists from the writer's perspective at all. Because I will think something is slow and people will tell me it was fast, and vice versa, right? Because of course I can only evaluate this on the basis of how hard it was for me to write and how long it took. So I really think pacing is an illusion created by your own engagement, and only that. So, was Kalinga inspired by the underground forest in Oscar the Valley of Wind? No, it was not. Have I ever read First Law? No, I have not. I have not. You have to have college to write. No, you don't have to go to college to write. You just no, you don't have to. Just dropping in between work to say thank you for recommending Book of the New Sun. Just finished Shadow and Claw and really enjoyed it. That is awesome. Three Musketeers or Count of Monte Cristo. I like individually, right? I like Count of Monte Cristo better than the Three Musketeers, but I think the Three Musketeers as a series obviously is his like masterpiece, right? So good. Would I like to see Curious King signing your books? Sure, that would be great. Despite all the other special editions, 100%, right? I know I've spoken to Anthony a little bit, just as an admirer. And he's so good at what he does. Oh, what the fuck is a bad episode? Yeah, I understand. Sorry, I didn't understand the syntax there. Yeah, it does not have a bad episode. Cowboy Bebop and Psychopaths are both perfect. Any plans to do the short stories as audiobooks? Yes. I want to do a omnibus of all three collections as in a single volume, or the first three collections. I want to work on that like next year. I After I finish this next Diamond Edition, I want to get that together. So yeah. Any chance for Diamond Edition Book One reprint? The chances are now zero, but I have no information about that right now. So, thoughts on Carl Jung and Jacques Lacan? Nothing articulate. That's a deep question. Have I ever read Vinland Saga or Vagabond? I have not. I am not. They are both on the to-do list, especially Vagabond, because I love Lost Odyssey so much. But I have not gotten there yet. Do you feel there's some issue with scale over the course of the series? An example I can't wrap my head around is Lothlorians having 100,000 planets being a threat to the Empire, having have a billion planets. No, I'm not really bothered by these things, personally. So, is there a maximum upper limit to warp speed inside of the universe? Probably not technologically speaking, but practically speaking, I think maybe the fastest ship we've encountered is something like 2,000 times light speed, which of course it's not really 2,000 times light speed, but effectively 2,000 times light speed. But I think that's right. And there may even be other ways to travel. So, would it be possible to add adamant plating to Celsa Nocte? Theoretically, yes. Yoko Kanno for the Sun Eater OST. That is like, if I had a genie, that would be all three of my genie wishes. She's a genius. Yeah. Thank you for everyone explaining the slang. I missed the thing. I've not seen Freyren yet. I've heard it's great. How does the Tamerlane compare to other Imperial battleships? Is it one of the largest? Yes, it is. It is among the largest. The Imperial sort of ships of the line will max out at about 20 miles long, and it's about a dozen miles long. So it is on the bigger side. It is also like really, really kitted out in a way that some of the other ones are not designed to be. It's a lot more sort of densely united in terms of things like lighter craft and things. That's why the class was sort of discontinued. They were very expensive compared to even some of the bigger ones. I do need to go back and see Monster. I never have. It has been on my to-do list for years and years and years and years. I do. So, Samwise, to your question, I do think that the Thekla part of Severian has a lot to do with his assault on Jolenta. Actually, I don't know that I have an articulate thought about it right now, but I do think that that there is there's something there. But yes. I got into reading in my late 20s and early 30s. I started to get my friends into the same age group to start reading, but one of the challenges is lack of books marketed towards men. Yeah, this is like a big conversation online around literature at the moment, right? There are a couple of companies that have started out trying to sort of target male readers, right? And they get in a lot of hot water on the internet because it's the internet. And like, I think that this is perfectly correct and sort of valid concern. Women do make up the majority of readers, and that is like not their fault, right? Therefore, I don't think to a certain extent is the fault of publishers for marketing toward, the audience that exists, right? I have found that my readership only recently has stopped being like 98% guys, though. I don't know if that's because it's science fiction, which has tended to sort of skew more male anyway, or if that's something more idiosyncratic about me. I don't know. Maybe because I've done my marketing on YouTube and YouTube skews more male. But I don't know, right? I don't have an explanatory thesis here. But it is the case that traditional publishing, at the very least, tends to market towards women and to select books for a female audience because the audience, right, is predominantly female. And you see this especially like one of the reasons fantasy is a bigger genre than science fiction is because more women read fantasy and there are more women who read, period. And like there's all sorts of factors, right? Like men are probably playing video games more than they are reading. I probably, for example, play more video games in my downtime than read fiction. But that's why, I always tell myself it's because my job is reading books and writing them, and I kind of want to do something else. But maybe it is just a sort of a sex difference. I don't know. But I'm here for you. I guess is all I'm trying to say. Because I write for me, I sort of think of my archetypal reader as male anyway, right? Which is not to say that, women are not welcome. Of course you are. But like I have always written books for me, and so I, especially like in a climate where I do get a lot of guys come up to me at shows and like I just can't find anything to read, right? And so thanks, right? Like that feels good, right? If you feel like there's not a lot of stuff for you and my books are for you, that's great, right? Like, wouldn't matter who said that to me. That's a good feeling. And so, I'm here for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, uh, any plans for a new saga? Yes, I am in the early stages uh, of working on that. So, uh, what do I think changed, especially with how popular the pulps were? So I have a really silly, and this is going to maybe sound sexist to men theory about this. Actually, I think it's the pictures. Um, I think that the illustrations in the old pulp magazines worked as advertisement for the product in a way that the non-illustrated sort of standard novel of today just doesn't. It was a lot more common, even for novels in the early 20th century, to have a few black and white plate illustrations. And it was very common in those pulp magazines. And I think it would be an interesting experiment to run black and white illustrations because they're not that expensive, right? If you were to run, it's a few $100 to pay an actual human being to draw a black and white illustration, right? So you did a few of those, you doubled your art budget, right? Traditional publishing spends between $2,000 and $5,000 on a cover usually, and just on the art, not on the design. But if you double the art budget, you could probably get 10 black and white illustrations at a reasonable cost, which if you then printed 10,000 copies of a book would be, cents per image that you spent, right? It's a pretty good investment. I suspect that actually might change the customer demographics significantly with something like Sun Eater, for example, or like, a fantasy series even. I think also would offer, I think publishers should do this anyway because hardcovers are getting so expensive. And they are slapping these tacky sprayed edges on your books, and most of them look terrible. Some of them are great, but in a way to sort of trick you into buying the same book for $10 more. I personally, you know, I don't get it. I think that it would be good if you're charging $40 and $50 for a hardcover to put some illustrations in the darn book. It's what I would want to do. And to the extent that I have control over doing that, I would like to push in that direction. But I do think that actually would help a lot because I think that, especially like interior narrative illustrations of like scenes, right? Do a lot more to pitch the book to, particularly male readers, than that people suspect. And I think with those magazines, I really think the art was a selling point because as much as I love Howard, some of the other writers, some of their stories, just like the pictures were better than the stories, right? And like if I open the book and I see a guy with a sword fighting a giant snake, like I might buy the book actually. Depending on how good the drawing is. I really, really think that there's something to that with those magazines. So, Mindhunter is great. I have a writer I know, a friend of mine. I say friend. I haven't talked to him in a few years. Who used to work for the bureau, and he said it was as good a representation of the bureau and procedure as he'd ever seen anywhere in media. So, yeah, no, Mindhunter is good. And let's see, how long have we gone? Hour and a half. I'm gonna probably wrap up here before too long. I hear the younger child crying, so I feel like I should go check and make sure everybody is okay. But let me do a couple more questions. Let me jump to the bottom of the chat because it's been rolling and rolling and rolling. Only gilded edges. I like marbled edges personally, right? And like some of them are cool, but like make no mistake, that is a relatively cost-effective way to get you to pay more money for the book and feel better about it. I really think they should push a little harder on hardcovers. Because there are ways to do it without really ballooning your printing cost. Ballooning the development cost is, that's pennies on each one you print. If the printing cost goes up, then the margins get worse. It's a question of what you want to do. So, um, How long did it take for the Palatine to go from distinct social class to a genetic class? The Palatine caste developed over the course of several millennia. Actually, I want to say it was by like 8,000 ISD that they really start the early millennia of the empire. They don't really exist properly, and there's something more like the patrician caste. Really, is it sort of predates everything, but the formal instantiation of the Palatine caste came later. Have I ever met anyone who did their own art for a book? Yes. There's a book Daw published called The Summer Dragon by Todd Lockwood. Todd is a cover artist and has done cover artists for decades. And he wrote a book and he did his own cover. I know Tom Toner does a lot of illustrations for his own stuff. He didn't do the covers of the book, as far as I know. But Promise the Child, super underappreciated space opera from the last decade, by the way. Tom is a great guy. Did I ever think about making Sunnier multiple POVs? Yes, it was originally, and then I shifted and did it this way. How tall is Hadrian? He's 6'3". Hector Oliva is named after the Oliva brothers from Sabotage. That is correct. Yes. Are the margins on ebooks better for the author than paperback or hardcover? The margins are better on the ebooks because like there's only the setup fee, right? Like, but in terms of how much I make more on the hardcover than on the ebook in terms of like absolute value. Let me do maybe 2 more questions and then I will wrap it up. Do Palatine families make up a cover story for whenever a member becomes a scholiast? No. Is this because of the thing? So I think some people take that conversation at the beginning of book 5 a little bit too universally, where Tor Arian explains that like most of the Palatines are losers, right? Or most of the Scholiasts are losers, right? It is the case that like a bunch of families will put their more difficult children into the scholiasts, right? And depending on the time in imperial history, right, there were times when it was more advantageous to put your troublesome children into the clergy, right? But there are like genuinely great scholiasts, right? So like if that's the question, right, there's no shame in having a child be a scholiast. It's just often you put them in there because you don't want them causing dynastic political issues, right? So you will go drop someone in there because they've caused issues for you, right? And it's like, well, go make him a professor or something and lock him in a cell on another planet and make him do work, right? Like is just a thing that you can do with your extra children. Yeah, we'll do one more. Let's see if I can find a good one. Usually in fictional authors are showing how diverse this or that fictional race is. They try to humanize them. You, on the other hand, just say, yeah, look, they have a rich culture, but they're jerks. Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised that there isn't a push towards more illustration, because it's like the one thing that readers ask for incessantly is they want pictures. Opinions about Cookout. Cookout is great. I'm here. I am here for the milkshakes, my guy. That is the reason to go. How do scholars choose their names? Is it like the Pope? They choose someone they admire. Yes. And for the last question, so that one was free. What is the origination of the name Demiurge? The word originates in sort of the Gnostic heretical sects of Christianity, to refer to the, in their worldview, evil creator god who made the universe as a trap for the pure soul that you are. Right? Yeah, this may sound familiar to you. So. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up there and go and check on my family. And I will see you all. I will see you all very soon. Probably by the next time I do the stream, book 7 will be for real done. I will have done the copy edit and everything. So that is very exciting. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, farewell.